Let's build a fully AFK farm for stone and cobble that can keep up with efficiency 5 and a haste 2 beacon, so that we can get as much stone and cobble as we could possibly need, fully AFK, standing in place, mining at max speed. As for the rates, you're looking at 1100 stone in just 2 minutes, which means 32,000 stone per hour. Now this is with efficiency 5 and a haste 2 beacon, but of course that's not required. If you don't have efficiency or you don't have a beacon, you'll just get lower rates since you'll be mining at a slower speed. And of course, the only difference between getting cobble and regular stone is whether or not you have silk touch. One thing to think about before building the farm is how long we plan on using it. If we're going to AFK for an extended period of time, we will need to fix our tools. So we could build an experience farm at the generator, or we could build the generator at a farm that produces experience. We could even just add something that will feed us bottles of enchanting along the way. Because one thing about building it at a farm is we would lose out on looting, which wouldn't really matter all that much, but of course we would have to be holding our pickaxe instead of our looting sword. Or you can keep things simple and ignore experience altogether, because an Unbreaking 3 netherite pick can mine an average of 8,000 blocks before it's in danger of being broken. And personally, if I were ever going to use a stone generator, that's how I would use it. I wouldn't worry about experience at all. But recently I've been designing tree farms and blast chambers and cube makers, and so this kind of seemed like it fit in there. Plus I already had the design made, so it gives me a little more breathing room to work on these nether tree farms that I am currently polishing and testing and figuring out the rates and all that other good stuff. But for now, let's jump into the stone generator. The build area is going to be 20 by 8. And if you want a slower, simpler stone generator, you can check out this video that I'll link here on the screen. But we're going to place 2 rows of 5 obsidian, 4 blocks away from each side, and 1 block from the back. Now the storage system will really be up to you if you want crafters or loaders, but as an example, we're going to place a chest there in the front that could always be expanded. And then we're going to have 5 hoppers pointed into the back of that chest with 5 chests on top, and then 5 more hoppers pointed into those chests. Now as it is, the front chest is only being loaded at single hopper speed, which is 9,000 items per hour. So we might want to at least make it double hopper speed by adding a second row of hoppers and expanding the top chests into double. This can process up to 18,000 items per hour, so there will still be a bottleneck, but it keeps things nice and simple and has a ton of extra storage. But really at the bare minimum, you just need those 5 top chests and the hoppers pointed into the sides of those, because we want to place glass on top of those chests diagonally up from the hoppers, and then blocks on top of the hoppers extending out on each side by 1, because we need to place 5 minecart hoppers on top of the regular ones. But we have to do this one at a time by breaking a block, placing a rail, then a cart, then breaking the rail, and then breaking the next block. Do not try to do it more than one at a time, or the carts will push each other. But once you're done, place another row of glass over on that side, break out the front block, and extend it by 2 aligned with the hoppers, because that's where you're going to stand to use the farm. Then on top of one of the rows of obsidian, we're going to place 5 pistons facing up, and then diagonally up and inward from those, we're going to place another row of 5 obsidian. Then diagonally down and out from the pistons, we're going to place a row of blocks with dust on top. Then next to that dust going out, we're going to place 2 more rows of blocks. Then on top of the backmost row, we're going to place 5 pistons facing toward the center, and then we're going to semi-surround these pistons with more blocks. Solid blocks on the back, and then 2 on each side. And then in front of the pistons, we want to place 5 stone, or cobblestone, because these will eventually get pushed out into the farm. But we want to flood all 5 of the pistons with buckets of water, and we want that water to be trapped. So we need some kind of blocks in front of them to trap in the water. But then on that back row of solid blocks, we want to place dust, then we want blocks on top of the pistons, and 1 on each side. Then we want more pistons 1 block away from the back row facing toward the center. So it creates this little canal in which we will place a bucket of lava directly in the middle that will be on top of the blocks in front of the lower pistons. But then we want to place solid blocks on top of the frontmost pistons with redstone dust on top, and then 2 more rows of blocks going back aligned with the dust. so that yet again, we can place 5 pistons on top of the backmost row of blocks, facing toward the center, and then semi-surround these pistons with 5 solid blocks along the back and 2 on each side. Then again, in front of the pistons, we want to place 5 blocks that will get pushed out into the farm so that we can flood all 5 of the pistons with buckets of water. And be sure that you place a bucket of water inside of every one of those pistons, but then place solid blocks on top, 1 block on each side, and then 5 there in the front to make a canal. Then next to these frontmost blocks, we need pistons facing down, and then on top of these pistons, we want to place 5 obsidian, and then diagonally down from those pistons, we want to place 5 more. The obsidian will prevent the pistons from pushing each other around or pushing blocks outside of the farm area. But then inside of this topmost canal, directly in the middle, we want to place a bucket of lava. And then we want redstone dust on top of that topmost obsidian, and then along this back row right here. And that is the basis of the double stone generator complete. So it will push stone out and across above where our collection system is in the middle. But now to connect all the redstone. So here on the back side, down at the bottom, we're going to place some blocks in this pattern so that we can place a repeater pointed toward the center on a 3-tick delay. So poke that repeater 2 times and then connect it with dust. Then on the top, we're basically going to do the same thing. So place blocks in these positions, dust that is almost connecting the front and back rows, and then a repeater right there on a 3-tick delay. So poke that repeater 2 times. Then to connect the top and bottom section, we're going to come around here to the front side, and then aligned with where the lava is, we're going to place a block down there, then diagonally up and out with a sticky piston on top facing up, an observer on top of that facing toward the middle, 2 solid blocks behind where that observer can be, then a block down there and diagonally up with dust on top of all 3 of these. So that essentially connects the top and bottom row through that observer. But now we need another observer looking at that sticky piston with a solid block behind it, then diagonally up, and then dust on top of those. And that will power the middle row of pistons. But then down here, we just want a row of dust going all the way to the middle. And then we can place a temporary lever just to test it and make sure that it pushes out blocks. But if you flick this lever too quickly, it will either generate cobblestone or nothing at all. So don't worry too much if it seems like something is wrong. Just flick the lever a few times to make sure it is pushing out blocks. As long as it's pushing out blocks, everything is okay. We'll talk about the clock and the timings and what to do if it generates cobblestone here in just a minute. But for now, we need to duplicate and mirror everything we've just built over on the other side, making sure that the observer connections are on the front and the repeater connections are on the back. But then we're just going to connect this redstone line together here in the front, place 2 blocks over with a lever on top, turn that lever on and place a dust underneath the block it's placed on, going into a repeater on a 3-tick delay, so poke that repeater 2 times, then diagonally from that, facing the opposite direction, we want a max delay repeater, then a solid block in between the 2 with a torch on that side. And there's your clock. So now if we turn off the lever, the whole machine should start activating. If it's not full already, it will push out stone until it's totally full. So we can start breaking out blocks and they should get replaced. Now, depending on the lag of your world and how many water updates you have within this area, or if someone turns on a farm that lags out the world or generates a ton of water updates, it could make some cobblestone, which would only really be a problem if you're feeding this into auto crafters. So if you're using auto crafters, I would still recommend adding item filters, item sorters, before the crafter. But over here on the back, we can go up by a couple of blocks just to make sure that no items can land on that back block, even though I don't think they can because the, carts should pull in all the items immediately. But anyway, okay, so if it's generating cobblestone consistently and you don't want it to, you want to stop it from generating cobblestone, we can add a repeater in front of that one and set that back one to a max delay, increasing both sections of the clock by 1 repeater tick. This will slightly slow down the machine, but it should no longer generate cobblestone because of that. Making things slower always makes it more stable. And if the world is so laggy that increasing the delay still doesn't fix it generating cobblestone, we can just increase the delay even further. The back section of repeaters just needs to be one less tick than the front section because the back section is being run through a redstone torch, which counts as a repeater tick. So again, we would just add a repeater right there to increase that by 1, increase the back one to a max delay, but then we would need to scooch the lever over by 1 to allow room for an additional repeater on the back. So we would just move the lever over, place a dust under its new position to allow us to place an additional repeater there on the back, and then increase the front ones by an additional tick. And so now the front and the back ones are at a 6 tick delay. But again, that should only be relevant if you're playing on a crazy, unplayably laggy world or realm or server. And really, it's not necessarily lag that causes stone generators to make cobblestone. I've mentioned this before in the previous video if you want to check that out, but it's all because of the water updates. Water updates are very taxing, with the water levels changing and water being dispensed and evaporating like on a moss farm or on a fountain that has a dispenser. And the more water updates that are taking place, the harder it is for the game to process all of that data. You know, the reason it's generating stone is because the water is flowing out of the pistons faster than the lava flows down. So if you lag out the water to where it can no longer flow out of the pistons fast enough, then the lava flows down before the water flows out, which is what generates cobblestone. But that's all we got for this episode. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. I can't keep making these videos without you, so I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe. Always remember that you are totally awesome, but above all, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye.